Hi everyone, this video we will talk about systems of linear equation and how to solve them, what it means to solve them, the algebra and the geometric interpretation of it. So let's start with first understanding what each of these terms mean. For example, what is a linear equation? So there's many ways of thinking about it. So one way is that if you plot it, that is graphically, it is a straight line. In terms of as an equation, we say that the degree is 1 or 0, meaning the power on the variable, that is x, is 1 or 0. So for example, things like 2x plus 3y equals 7. Yeah, that's when you have just an x, it means it's x to the power 1, or y equals 3. So you will recall that if you were to plot these things on the coordinate axis, they look like straight lines. For example, the first one here, y equals 3, would be this horizontal line where y is 3 for all values of x. The second one, in order to plot this, you would have to construct a table, values of x and y. So for example, if x is 0, then y is 7/3. When y is 0, x is 7/2. When x is, say, -1, y is 3. And you can have a bunch of these values, but two of them are sufficient to draw a line. When x is 0, y is 7/3, which is about here, and when x is 7/2, y is 0. So this comes out to be a straight line. So this is something that you already know. These are the fact that a linear equation represented graphically gives you a straight line. And these straight lines, they can look different depending on the slope and the intercept. But in this video, we are going to go and look at more than one lines. So here's a question where you can try to answer this by pausing the video at this point and thinking about it, which is, if I ask you to draw two lines, how many possible ways in which you can do that? Okay, so pause the video and try and draw on paper how many different ways you can draw two lines. All right, hopefully you paused the video and you tried that out. Now, one observation would be that there are infinitely many ways. You can draw them any which way you want. But if you look at them very carefully, then there are three, we're going to call them distinct ways in which these two lines can be drawn. Okay. And what are these three distinct ways in which these two lines can be drawn? One is that you draw the two lines, let's say the blue and the red line, and they meet at a point. Okay. So what's happening here is that, let's say we say they meet at a point, and this point is called the intersection point, which is exactly what you would think of when you think of the word intersection. Like on the road, an intersection is where two roads meet. So if two lines meet, that's the intersection point. The second possible way in which you could have drawn two lines is you draw these lines in such a way that they never, oops, I want a different color, you draw them in such a way that they actually never meet. Right? So let's say they never meet. And these are said to be parallel lines. So there is no intersection point. And the third case, which is slightly less obvious that it should be treated differently, is the case where you draw this blue line and then you draw the red line right on top of it. Okay, so essentially saying that they are the same lines, right? We say that in this case, we say the lines coincide. Okay, so they are coinciding lines, means they are exactly the same lines. Now the point here is that although there are infinitely many ways in which you can draw these two lines, any drawing that you make is going to fall into one of these three categories. Now, which is an important way in which we study things in mathematics is we try to classify them with respect to something. So here the classification is with respect to where they meet, right? So the first case, they meet at one point. The second case, they never meet. And this third case, in a way, we can say they meet at infinitely many places. Or they meet everywhere. Okay, so when you have two lines, these are the three different ways in which you can draw them. Now, what is the takeaway from this? What this means is, the takeaway, if you put together these two information, first of all, we said that a linear equation represents a line. To that, you add this idea that there are three distinct ways of drawing two lines. The result of this observation is that if I have two linear equations there are exactly three different things that can happen. Okay, again, pause the video here and think about it a little bit. What we did was we established a linear equation as a picture looks like a line. Then we established that if we are drawing pictures of two lines, there's three ways in which it can be done. So putting these two ideas together, we can conclude that if I have two linear equations, then there are three different things that can happen. Okay, with that in mind, now we look at each of these three different things that can happen. Okay, so that's going to be in the next video. Okay, so in the next video we look at how we can solve these two systems of equation, and then how we can find these three different things that we expect to happen.